I want to take a look at how you can control how you're able to see, hear, and lock your tracks, as well as individual clips in the timeline. Let's take a look. All right, so I have my sequence here, and we obviously haven't gotten to the point of putting all the finishing touches on ours, the music and the titles, but I did want to show you a version of this sequence with a little bit more of the bells and whistles so that we could really explore some important aspects of track monitoring and locking. All right, so as you can see, I have my interviews on V1 and A1. I have my B-roll video on V2, and that B-roll audio is on A2. I have my music on A3, and I have my titles on V3. Now, there are a couple of reasons I might want to change track visibility. One is so that I can just check to see what a particular shot looks like without all the tracks displayed. So right here, you can see the B-roll because we have a vertical hierarchy in terms of what we see. But if I wanted to check out Casey's interview and not worry about the B-roll, I would just click on this little eyeball here, and that's going to turn off my B-roll. Now, this is not only turning it off for just editing right now, but it's also turning it off for output, okay? So if I wanted to export a version of my sequence without B-roll, I would just need to toggle that off. Now, it might not be too often that you would want to just export a version without B-roll, but here I have my titles, the just quick and dirty placeholders that I created in Premiere Pro, and so I could turn those off. Again, they're turned off with visibility, but they're also turned off with output. So if I need to get a version of this sequence to a graphic designer without my placeholders, then that's how I do that. Now, the same goes for my audio, but instead of these eyeballs, we have mute and solo buttons. I can solo as many tracks as I want, and I can mute as many tracks as I want. So again, if I wanted to turn off my music and export a version of this sequence without music so that my composer can work with it, I can easily just come down to A3 and click my mute button, and now when I play, I don't hear the music.
Craftsmanship, quality, and community spirit, that underlies everything that we do.
And then as far as solo is concerned, imagine if I had 10, 20, or 30 audio tracks, and I really just wanted to hear the audio for one or two. I would just solo one or two tracks, and then I'm only hearing the audio for those particular tracks.
Craftsmanship, we have Casey and his team who care meticulously.
Okay, so not so much a big deal for a small sequence like this, but the solo button can be very helpful when you have a lot of audio tracks. Now, what if, however, I just need to turn off certain clips instead of an entire track? Well, I can easily do that too. All you need to do is select the clips that you would like to disable, and so I'll just select these two right here. And then right-click, and then uncheck Enable. And what that does is it grays it out visually, and now they're still there, but I can't see them.
That we do.
I'll re-enable those. And I want to also mention that this is possible for just video or just audio. So right now, all of my B-roll comes in married pairs. Every time I select video, I select audio. But if I want to select just one or the other, and isolate it, that's an Option click or an Alt click on a PC, and then the same thing applies. I can just right click and uncheck Enable, okay? And so now the video is turned on, but the audio is turned off, and I'll mute my music so you can tell. And then finally, another technique, which we did cover earlier in the course, is the ability to lock tracks. And I do that simply by clicking on one of these open lock icons. When I do so, the lock icon closes and turns blue, and then the track that I've locked gets these diagonal crosshatches. And now I can't do anything to clips on locked tracks. I can't edit, I can't delete, I can't even select it. And so you see how I've locked my music. I actually lock my music a lot because as I'm continuing to work on my interviews and my B-roll, I don't want to mess with my music. So I just lock it and I prevent myself from being able to change anything on my locked tracks. I do want to mention one thing about this. If you lock a track that contains clips with married video or audio, you need to be careful that you don't get yourself out of sync. So for example, if for some reason I locked A2, we know that everything on A2 is married to video on V2. But when you've locked a track, that's no longer the case. So if I move something on V2, you can see that the associated clip on A2 doesn't move and I'm out of sync. So be careful of that. All right, so as you can see, changing your track's visibility, audibility, and lockability are really useful techniques during the editing process.